born in Alexandra Township on the 29th of November 1963 and raised in Meadowland, Soweto, Venolia Motlalipule Mashego arrived into this world a star. Her father, Collins Mashego, was a TV icon, having entered showbiz in the 1960s as a hotshot drummer with the Anchors, an Alexandra-based instrumental soul ensemble. In the early 1980s, he produced and hosted La Poloja, a popular talent and variety show. Though her father wanted her to become a lawyer, he allowed her to tag along to rehearsals, and it was not long before Venolia became a professional too. She once stated, "Someone spotted me there, and I started doing commercials. I remember my first, it was a close-up for Revlon. They made me look so grown up, and it was just so flattering appearing on television for the first time." She distinguished herself as a gifted dancer, and she was fabulous doing it too. Popular with music fans at festivals, she would thrill them by dancing energetically and all of a sudden start trembling from head to toe. Long before she was the queen of Friday nights, Venolia Mashego was a voice seeking a beat. Discovered by the iconic Elek Kaoli, her entry into the music world wasn't a side project, it was her first true calling. Elek, known for his work for the bands Harare and Umoja, played a significant role in nurturing Venolia's early career in the music industry. He saw in her a performer with massive potential and helped her gain prominence alongside other artists. In 1988, Venolia released her debut album, The Hunger, which included Set Me Free. Naughty Boy followed quickly in 1989 with the single Suna Papa. These were the years of experimentation, blending the catchy bubblegum pop of the era with her unmistakable gravelly energy. She had this incredible gravel in her voice that was so different from the polished pop stars of the time. And in her music, she wasn't trying to be pretty, she was trying to be felt. As the 90s dawned, Venolia's sound matured alongside the birth of the new South Africa. In 1991, she released Gina, which consisted of the self-titled hit Gina. And just a year later, in 1992, the album You're Mine hit the shelves, having released her final single, Winnie One. These releases coincided with her meteoric rise on television. Whilst pursuing a relatively popular music career, Venolia knew she wanted to be an overall entertainer, and so she decided to expand her talents. In her early teens, she starred in adverts before moving into a career as a television presenter and actor. She became the ultimate crossover star, the artist who didn't just sing the hits, but eventually hosted shows that defined them. And then came Jam Alley. Jam Alley was a local variety game show which debuted on the 1st of June 1995 by Red Pepper Pictures. When it first hit the screens, it was supposed to run for a mere 13 weeks. Jam Alley has always been a platform for South African youth to showcase their aspirations of being discovered. Contestants came on the show to have their 5 minutes of fame, and sometimes it was the beginning of a new life. In its 10-year existence, Jam Alley boasted some electrifying presenting skills of live wire personalities such as Nimrod the Sheriff Nkosi, Samantha Baby Sam Adams, Jocelyn Pushi Dan, Zanele Nesta Mnyakale, and Seipati Twasa Sioke, among others. But it was V Mesh who put the celebrated show on the entertainment map. Her co-presenter Nimrod Nkosi credited her mentorship for helping him develop his quote-unquote the sheriff persona, noting she was the hottest star at the time, yet selflessly guided newcomers. Nimrod called her quote-unquote the true definition of celebrity. There she was, gorgeous, huge hair bouncing as she walked, high heels, mini skirt, Japanese gown, red lips, sharp nose, with bright eyes and a big smile. Venolia was well respected among her peers, irrespective of their celebrity status. She gave everything to Jam Ali. She taught me how to navigate adoring fans with grace and humility. The duo won an Avanti Award for Best Presenters, and the show walked away with the Best Youth Program Award. Her father said of all his 3 children, Venolia was the one that took after him. He knew as soon as she joined Jam Ali that Venolia would become a superstar. He stated, "When she was younger, I used to tease them that no one will ever be like me. But she took it to heart. She said, I want to beat that man. I will remember her as one of my children who once challenged me and succeeded. She surpassed me because she was more popular and loved. People loved me, but she took it to another level."
Next, Arita Mairuna. Tebza ngwana o tsamaya ka rewind man a o phakise da. Mpenjaka wana tla o binang tat.
Freestyle man.
O a bona daiding. Khuma flex.
Yeah, put your hands up in the atmosphere. What?
As a talent show, Jam Ali helped to launch the careers of a number of well-known artists, including Judith Sepuma, Mandoza, and Mzambia. Some of these artists had to come to contest for their 5 minutes of fame, but left the stage as winners of career-launching recording deals. A CD compilation was released in 1995 under David Gresham Records, featuring some of the most performed hits on the show. Even though she was the most loved on screen, Venolia started showing signs of rather negative behavior off screen. Her departure from Jam Ali marked the beginning of the end of the cult spectacle that defined TV viewing in the 90s. It was also during this decade that her brilliance as a screen actor became evident in the Sepedi dramas such as Diwile Makgolela and Ditlabonyane ke Ditlaboima. In the latter, described as a story of murder, revenge and justice, she played the role of a crime syndicate boss's daughter, Ntimetsa, working alongside seasoned actors like Alfred Nokwe, Magic Hlachwayo, Faith Kekana, and Hosaya Mbokeng as the crime boss Kadijela. She had stated, "I have always been confident. Every time I went to an audition, I always used to say to other people who came, I will see you on set." I couldn't believe I had the part. When it really hit me, I remember calling my parents in the middle of the night saying, "Wow, I got the part." In 1995, the role earned V-Mash an Avanti Award for Best Actress and had a brief stint on Mubango.
Our relationship is now strictly professional. Stop pestering me.
You know, I thought I knew you.
Typical male response, assuming that they know everything about women. Well, brother, you don't.
These portrayals would have paved the way for her short-lived but most famous role ever, Hilda Letlalo in Generations, the country's first soapie for black audiences. Letlalo, a scheming and ambitious advertising executive with love for powerful men, was one of the original characters in the popular series that debuted in 1994. In Generations, she got to play opposite Silo Magega Ncube, whom she described as a mentor. We were close friends, confidants. We used to drive each other crazy. That's when he made me realize that I had a whole lot of potential. He kept on pushing me to be the best. Sometimes I felt like strangling him, but all the hard work paid off. After experiencing the heartbreak of miscarriages, in 1999, she received the biggest blessing of giving birth to her son Oratile. While her role as Hilda in Generations was beloved, her departure from the soapie was also clouded by her personal struggles. Although the character was a fan favorite, The stability required for a long-running soap opera conflicted with the turbulence she was experiencing in her personal life at the time. At this point, V-Mesh had the world in the palm of her hand, but sadly, her success would prove to be her undoing. In 1997, she made her exit and was fired on Generations, allegedly for bad conduct, including rowdy behavior, late coming, and inebriation. Her personal life became chaotic. This after a case was opened against her for allegedly prancing around a suburb in Pretoria in only her underwear and yelling at her neighbors. But Mashego denied these allegations, saying the entire ordeal was blown out of proportion. It is a racist issue. Someone burst into my apartment and said, "You bloody K-word, you are making a noise." My only fault was to respond to that like any self-respecting black person. The case was eventually withdrawn, but the crack in her image had already appeared. This thing was affecting my job, denting my image mercilessly and unjustly. I am a role model for children. It would be sad and unfair to them to lose someone like me under these circumstances. As talented as she was, her antics stood in the way of all opportunities that could have made her reach higher heights. It is unclear what the reason for her antics were, but this behavior followed her to every gig. Like in 2001, she was invited to host Miss Technica Natal Beauty Pageant. What was meant to be a high-profile celebration turned into a night of absolute chaos that left contestants in tears and the audience in a riot. Allegedly, just 30 minutes into the event, Mashego, reportedly in a drunken state, tore up the official program, declaring she would, quote-unquote, do things her way. She began taunting judges and degrading contestants, forcing them to spell their names because she claimed the judges were too stupid to do it themselves. When confronted by the SRC, Mashego claimed she was simply celebrating her birthday. Despite a brief apology and a second chance, the destructive behavior resumed within 20 minutes. The situation became dangerous when the 1,000-strong audience began pelting her with cans. V-Mesh famously doubled down, telling the crowd that cans didn't scare a township girl and allegedly dared them to try shooting bullets instead. Durban group Shana could not perform on stage while Venolia backed them. She took their microphones while they were singing. She had to be taken backstage twice by the SRC and told to behave, but to no avail. The SABC was furious with Mashego's off-screen antics. They said the broadcaster had put pressure on the show's producers, Red Pepper Productions, to fire Mashego or risk not having its contract renewed. This resulted in the manager for Jam Alley, Oscar Mlangeni, issuing a 6-month ban from the show. At this point, Venolia began losing points in the industry. Agencies and producers found her undesirable to work with. This resulted in her losing out on gigs and money. Bearing it all, Venolia stated, "I was wondering why people were acting so weird around me, looking at me like I had the plague. I had no idea that newspapers reported that Jam Alley had fired me. What was worse was that one of the people I used to work with came to my home and delivered a brown envelope and said to me they were looking forward to working with me on other projects and left." Soon after, she fell in a deep depression in which she had to be hospitalized for better care. "I could hardly get out of bed. I could not walk down the street. I put my child in my mother's care. I did not have control." But she too set the record straight regarding her substance abuse. She never denied having an alcohol problem, but she vehemently denied ever using drugs. "I have never touched drugs and I don't even know what they taste like." She believed she was judged and condemned without a chance to defend herself. She was lost. At one stage, she believed she had a calling. She slaughtered many cows, but it did not help. People on the streets kept her spirits high, even when it felt nothing was going right, and encouraged her to go back to what she does best, being on the small screen. There were times when I was suicidal. At that point, I decided to change my life, so I started traveling to schools and motivating children. I did not want to become a hypocrite, telling kids that there are opportunities out there while I am hiding behind closed doors, so I picked myself up. Mashego says she could not control what had happened in the past, but she could, however, control what happened in the future. In 2009, the Queen of Jam Alley began her quiet transformation. No longer the face of the brand, she stepped behind the curtain, using her scars as lessons to nurture the next generation as a marketing manager at Gia Music. But the camera missed her and Venolia missed the light. In 2014, the resurgence became official. Side by side with icons like Yvonne Chaka Chaka in Giyani, Land of Blood, she proved her range wasn't limited to a variety stage. She was also offered a stint as an eccentric aunt on Isibaya, as well as the nostalgic host of Please Call Me, taking calls from the public who wished to dedicate songs to others. V-Mash was back where she belonged. Her final act on Moja Love's Bega Sigbambile was a masterclass in work ethic. Even at the end, her impact was so profound that the industry didn't just mourn her, they stepped up to carry her family. A final tribute to a woman who gave everything to the South African screen. In her home in Mamelodi, the woman who had electrified a nation for 3 decades finally found her rest. Venolia Mashego was just 13 days shy of her 57th birthday. She passed peacefully in the early morning hours, a quiet departure for a woman whose life had been anything but. She was laid to rest at Heatherley Cemetery. In the history of South African television, there are those who follow the path, and then there are those who blaze it. Before the quote-unquote it girl, before the multi-hyphenate mogul, and before the era of the social media superstar, there was Venolia. She didn't just occupy a screen, she owned the atmosphere. Every catchphrase from Bonang Matheba or flamboyant entrance from Somizi Mhlongo carries a fragment of V-Mash's DNA. Icons like Bonang have long pointed to Venolia as the original blueprint, the first true it girl who proved that a South African presenter could be bold, gravelly, and unapologetically township cool while remaining the biggest brand in the country. She wasn't just a host, she was a vibe. Her style of presenting could not be found anywhere else on television. It was straight up Lokshin, not diluted in English, but a vibrant mix of our own South African languages. Dressed in colorful, skimpy outfits and dancing on top of tables, she was the first official blonde black woman to hit our screens, keeping a nation of youngsters glued to their seats every Friday for more than a decade. We acknowledge the shadows that eventually touched her life, not to linger there, but to honor her full humanity. However, a few difficult chapters can never rewrite a masterpiece. She taught a generation of South African entertainers that authenticity was their greatest hit. The struggles of the woman will never diminish the magic of the star. We choose to remember her at her brightest. That light, the one that guided us through the 90s and gave future presenters the permission to be eccentric, to be fashion icons, and to be loved. She was the spark. She was the inspiration. She was and will always be the original Smatsatsa. Venolia Mashego was, is, and will always be the standard. Rest in heavenly peace, Venolia.
Uso buye mo, uso chacha mo.